Hello, Impact Makers. I'm Virginia Cinquemani, a sustainability trainer, coach, and author. Welcome to The Good Communicator. You're probably wondering, what's The Good Communicator? It's your go-to podcast built exactly for you, the sustainability professional, to help you turn sustainability from a hurdle to triumph. Here, we break down the art of effective communication to make sustainability irresistible and co-create new futures. Come on a journey with me as we dig into proven frameworks and actionable strategies and demystify the process of influencing others in every episode. From building trust and using empathy in communication to overcoming resistance and inspiring action, we craft, we inspire, we co-create the perfect message that doesn't just remain in the head, but moves hearts towards sustainable change. Welcome to the Good Communicator podcast. This is the first episode that I record for you. I'm super excited and I'm a bit nervous as well, of course. It's a new venture. But I just wanted to ease you into the world of good communication in sustainability. And I'm really excited to share with you over the course of this show techniques and thoughts about how to communicate sustainability for impact. So that's the purpose of what we're doing here. Let me introduce myself first. I am Virginia Cinquemani. I am a trainer, coach, and author who focuses all her efforts and time on supporting sustainability professionals to make an impact. And in this first episode, I thought I would give you the background. So why this podcast, why the Good Communicator, what I mean by that, what we want to, what did this come from? So here we are. The podcast came as an idea off the back of a book that I wrote that hopefully will come out in January 2025 called The Good Communicator, How to Make Sustainability Irresistible. So the book, I've just finished drafting the manuscript. It was a mammoth effort to put together all that I know, all the experiences that I gathered from myself and my life, my clients in coaching and training, people I spoke to, leaders in sustainability about communication. But why exactly communication? Now, I need to take you back to the beginning of the company that I founded in 2018, Green Gorilla, and the reason why I founded that company. I've been a sustainability professional for close to 2 decades now, and I noticed over the years that sustainability professionals really struggle, and they still struggle today, with not the technical aspect of sustainability, because we all have a quantity of qualifications and we can demonstrate our technical knowledge any day. But really, we struggle with communicating that message, passing on the message of sustainability, getting clients to embrace sustainability 100%. Often I hear colleagues saying, it's just a tick box exercise. They would go for the bare minimum of compliance. They only want sustainability because it's a funding requirement, or is part of a bid, or is in case of buildings, for example, the council wants it, etc., etc. But the moment that project finishes, sustainability disappears from their horizon. Now, it's not always like this. I've noticed over the 2 decades of work in the sustainability sector that actually sustainability has been gaining momentum. We hear about it more. David Attenborough has brought sustainability into people's living room with wonderful programs like Blue Planet and the like. People are generally more concerned about sustainability. I've been speaking to children in schools local to me, and they all know the basic elements of it and what we're struggling with. So it is something that is being talked about more. In the UK, I don't know where you are listening from, but in the UK, we have a net zero by 2050 target for the whole country. So it is something that is talked about. Big companies have policies in place and environmental management systems in place. The trouble starts in the actual implementation of sustainability. There is a big disconnect at the moment between what people are promising and saying, or governments even are promising and saying, and what's the reality. Carbon emissions are still climbing up every year. There was a little bit of inflection during COVID. There's not been significant to help with the mass of issues that we are facing. So what is the problem? And as I said, when I started Green Gorilla, I was training people at that time, like I've been doing for the last 15, 16 years of my life and career. I could see people struggling to communicate that message, and they will stop when a client or maybe the board, of their own company will say things like, "Oh, we can't do it at the moment. It costs too much. We haven't got the resources. It's not the right time. Yes, it would be great to have, but no, we can't do it now." And this is something that still happens today, even though, as I said, things have been changing. We can see more of a focus on sustainability than ever before. So what I realized is that when people say it costs too much, or we don't have the resources, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's the easy excuse they can give you to get you off their hair, effectively. Underneath that excuse or those excuses, you have layers and layers of fear, nervousness. So over the year, I've been focusing. So over the years, I've been focusing on supporting sustainability professionals to become more assertive, to use their language skills and hone them a bit so that they could transfer and that message and be more impactful, really getting people to understand sustainability. But now I also realized over the years that the problem is in the way we communicate that message. And also it's really about our human consciousness, is about the psychology of being human. So it's a combination of factors that really prevent communication from being impactful. Let me try and share it with you, the basic concept around it. And over the episodes of this podcast, I will dig a little deeper into this. So the book was born from a conversation that I had last year with a coaching client who was an experienced sustainability professional who was struggling to influence others. And when I asked them when was the last time they managed to influence somebody, they said a few years ago. And this is somebody who works in sustainability every single day. So I asked them what was the magic formula, the recipe they had to influence that particular person. And they said it was a combination of them being really prepared for the fight and having studied the situation really thoroughly and having all her weapons in place and having put their boxing gloves on. And then they stopped mid-sentence and said something like, oh, why am I talking about fighting? Why all these, fighting language? And that's part of the problem. That was a realization for me as well, that we approach our sustainability conversations from the wrong end. We think we have to fight. We think we struggle to influence others. Therefore, we have to go harder on them. We have to really push the message, starting from our values, so from what we believe is the right thing. But all this fighting is absolutely exhausting because in the majority of cases, we're not trained to fight. We are trained to be sustainability professionals, mostly technical people, mostly people who actually like our data. And of course, we like people as well and the environment, but we're not fighters. So all of this is an absolute drain on our energy, and we are absolutely unprepared to start conversations when we have already spent all our energies in really building them up in our heads. That's the thing as well, being really nervous about them. So when we have to convince others of our ideas, it feels really like we are pushing massive boulders uphill, or like another client of mine put it, shooting arrows at a castle and obviously getting nowhere because, the arrows just fall into the moat and that's it. So how can we open the door of the castle instead? Where is the door? How do we do that? So all of this really pushed me to try and understand where the main issues were. And one of them is the fact that we as sustainability professionals think that communication is mainly one way. So we have to convey a message. We are speaking. We are effectively wanting to convince the other person that's it, and that's how it goes. But communication, if you think about it, and I know some of you know these things very well because you've been doing maybe management courses and all sorts of change management training, etc. But let me repeat this. Communication is actually a two-way street. It's about speaking, it's about listening, is about the conditions surrounding the conversation, is about where the conversation is happening, when it's happening, how it is happening, and why it's happening. So let's look at them one by one. Why is the conversation happening? First point. What do I want to obtain at the end of this conversation? What is the outcome I want? Is there like perhaps a call to action for the people that I'm speaking with? Do they have to do something at the end of the conversation? Or is it just because I want them to be aware of something? Now, often we choose the wrong means to an end. So in the book and in the podcast, I'm talking mainly about conversations, not written communication. However, sometimes it is actually easier and quicker and more appropriate to write down the things we want to say, especially if it's just a one-way communication, like we were saying, making people aware of something, maybe communicating a new policy or asking one question. There is no need really to engage into a conversation. So maybe it could be an email, it could be a text message, easier. And that's why we have so many useless meetings, and I'm sure you don't want me to go on about that because I'm sure you're aware of them yourself, but so many useless meetings that we go to just because it's a one-way message that gets conveyed. There is no interaction with the people in the meeting. So why are we meeting? In fact, meetings should really be just about complex issues to work out together, co-creating outcomes in some ways. It shouldn't be just a bulletin of news given from one person to another or to a group. So that's the way that communication can happen in a more impactful way. So when we have those conversations, where are they happening? Are we in a busy cafe, or are we in a silent place? Are we in a forest? Is that appropriate for the message we want to convey? When are they happening? And when I say when, it means try and understand the state of mind of the other person, but of your own as well, your own state of mind. Are you in the right state of mind to have that conversation? If it's an important one, when you have to win a client, for example, a big client, do you know if they just had, for example, a big meeting? Maybe they're tired, or is it like a busy conference where they can't really focus on what you're saying? All of this has sometimes slipped through the cracks, so we don't actually focus on where, when, how, and why our conversations are happening. But most importantly, we need to really focus on the fact that conversations are two ways. It's not just about speaking, like I said a minute ago, it's about listening, mainly, I would say. And again, something that you might have heard before, but in sustainability is probably even more important to listen to who you got in front of you, to your audience. We need to be curious about them. It's not about pushing the message. It's not about conquering this foreign land or fighting on a ring. It's about co-creation, because sustainability cannot happen in isolation. Sustainability is not something that one person can do on their own. Even if you are the most able sustainability professional on this planet, you need others to make it happen. Sustainability is a common effort with your clients, perhaps if that's what you do, with your board, if that's what interests you, that's why you're listening to this podcast, because you need to get your board on board, if that makes sense. But it has to be a joint effort, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not. It has to be an act of co-creation. Otherwise, we are still in the situation where we're at right now, where there are lots of commitments, but no action that follows. So we really need to listen to the other person. We really need to try and tune in with the way they feel. And that's where empathy really becomes absolutely key to having successful conversations, is to try and understand what's below that tip of the iceberg, where people are saying we don't have enough money, we don't have enough resources. Okay, what's going on below? Is it that it's a bad moment for them? Or is it that really genuinely they don't have the funds? Okay, can I help them find the funds if that's what they need? Or could it be that they don't understand what I'm saying? And that's another massive one. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about jargon and how to demystify sustainability and bust the jargon. But is it because adults usually don't ask the question? They don't understand something. They just stay with that doubt and dismiss it, as opposed to becoming curious and asking the question. Sorry, what do you mean by ESG? What do you mean by whatever? I learned to do that because in our sector, we have a lot of cryptic expressions, lots of acronyms that we give for granted now. We know what they are. We use them every single day. So we don't think we have to explain it. We don't even think there are people on the other side of our table that don't know what we mean. So it's a big process. So we're going to try and unpack it over the weeks of this podcast, over the episodes. But think about it. Could it be that the person in front of you doesn't understand what you're saying? Could it be that they had a bad experience before with sustainability, maybe with somebody less stable than you, or they really couldn't explain it well? Could it be that is about the uncertainty of it? Sustainability is what I call it in the book a slippery fish. It's something that changes every single day. Technology advances. We have new ways of approaching the same issue, or maybe new ways to approach new issues that pop into the scenario. And it's difficult to say, yes, this is going to be the best solution forever. Renewable energies, we know they're a fantastic solution and hopefully they will be forever. But is there something better that is going to come into the scenario, at the horizon? We have new technologies coming up. There is hydrogen that is becoming commercially viable, for example. Is it going to be better than what we got at the moment, which is for vehicles, electric vehicles? Probably, maybe it's going to be cleaner, but are there going to be other issues connected to it? So one of the problems, besides the fact that we are unable to communicate the message clearly, simply, and trying to step into other people's shoes, is that sustainability per se is a vague concept. It's difficult to define. It's difficult to demonstrate in certain cases the outcomes of it, the long-term impacts of certain choices and solutions. Maybe there are less data around case studies, successful case studies. So it's hard to prove that a certain commercial decision is going to be the right one for your client or the board or whoever you're talking about sustainability with. So that's another issue. Sustainability per se has a lot of uncertainty. But let me go back to the psychology of human beings. We have and share certain traits. Of course, we all have different personalities, and that's the way we were made. But as human beings, we have preserved over the years and centuries and millennia by being a bit risk adverse. Now, of course, there's been innovation and adaptation and all these wonderful things, but our first reaction is always to stay with what we got. That's a massive bias that we have as human beings, and we all suffer from it. So we are afraid of change. How can we overcome that as sustainability professionals? We said sustainability is full of uncertainty at times. However, I am pretty sure if you've been working in this industry for a while, you know of examples and case studies that you can bring to your clients or to the board that demonstrate that in similar situations, sustainability has been the winning choice. We know that the world is moving towards that anyway, albeit a little bit slower than what we would like. But there is plenty of evidence out there in the form of case studies and statistics and people's experiences that can demonstrate that sustainability is the way forward. It's probably the only way forward to ensure longevity and responsibility long term, and the company's risk management will need to take that into consideration, including the fact that insurances and banks do not want to lend money or insure businesses that don't demonstrate a sustainable outcome or sustainable outlook. So there is certainty that you can provide. It might be limited, but surely you can try and bring to the table some case studies and some examples. Going back to the psychology of human beings, so people do not respond to long-term threats, but even long-term opportunities. We are very short-sighted in that sense. That's the way we've been preserving our human species over the millennia. So long-term threats like climate change, not enough to get us to jump at the thing. As an example, on the opposite, when COVID came, it was an immediate threat. That's what it's been offered as, an immediate threat. And in fact, overnight, we had PPE, so protective equipment. We started manufacturing our own disinfectants and face masks. A vaccination was developed within months as opposed to years, as it usually happens, because it was an immediate threat. That's how it was perceived, and that's how we jumped at it. Climate change, not the same. Opportunities long term, same thing. Very difficult because we are wired to take advantage of what's here now. Another element of this is that we are only responding to threats when they are personally affecting us. So arguably, you can say, oh, but we sustainability professionals care about the environment. And so we don't actually look just at our own return or something personal. But think about how you started this career, or if you're not working in sustainability, why do you care about it? Because probably it affects you personally. It could be that you became a parent and so more sensitive to thinking about your children in the future and how they're going to cope with an unlivable planet. Or maybe you saw the places where you grew up change dramatically. In my case, I come from Sicily. Summers there are becoming unbearably hot. The temperatures are reaching 45 degrees very regularly now, or even 50 degrees in some cases. That's horrendously hot. It never used to be like this. And that really makes me sad. I have to be, completely honest. It really affects me. So it is personal for me. It's not just about, of course, it's about the planet, but it's something that triggers a personal reaction in me. So how can you use this piece of information about people not responding to long-term threats and opportunities and people not responding to a threat unless it's personal? You can create the opportunities for them. You can, and that's where listening is really important, because you need to get to know them. You need to understand what's personal for them. What do they care about? What are they scared of? You see, and the tip of the iceberg, when they say we don't have money, we don't have resources, what's underneath? What are they scared of? Are they scared, for example, losing traction with their customers or stakeholders? Are they scared of losing their dignity, their status, whatever it is? You need to find out by asking questions and listening to the answers. Then you can present a solution in a way that appeals to them and it resonates with them. That actually is becoming personal. Sustainability is becoming a personal thing, a solution to their personal challenges and threats and opportunities. Another thing that is important to notice is that sustainability has not become mainstream yet because it's seen as not convenient, as more expensive, especially if you talk about it in everyday life. Maybe clothes, food, anything that is sustainable also comes with a higher price tag. However, that's again mostly an excuse, because if you really, really want something, if something is super appealing to you on a personal level, you might take that decision to spend more just because you're absolutely convinced that that's the right thing for you. We react mostly from our guts. We actually make purchasing decisions from our guts rather than our rational minds. That's been demonstrated. So unless something is personally appealing to people, they're not going to switch and they're going to give you all the excuses in the world. And of course, it's more convenient to click on a button and get somebody to deliver food to your door, or to buy something online and then walk into the zero waste shop in town. That's part of the problem. Is not as convenient sometimes as the unsustainable alternatives. So the question for you is, how can you make sustainability convenient to the people you're speaking with? Is there something that you can help them with? In the case of business, it usually is that you can support them with templates, extra training, maybe one-to-one help, whatever it is to make it convenient will really help. And it's not just about showing them the money. It's actually about making it convenient, which might be a different thing. In fact, science has demonstrated that unless something is twice as convenient as what we already have, we will not switch. Think about it. You might be banking with one of the horrendous banks that invest in fossil fuels, HSBC, Barclays, etc., just to name a few. And you know that there are other, maybe smaller banks or newer banks like Starling, Triodo, etc., Monzo, that don't do that, and they're actually more sustainable. But you haven't done it yet. You know you should, but you haven't done it yet. Why? Because there is friction there. So how do you make it convenient and frictionless for your customers, for your clients, for your board members to adopt sustainability? So that's the big question for you. Right, so I think we are at the end of this podcast episode where I introduced the issue that we are facing just in general terms. And just to sum up, we talked about how we don't necessarily approach sustainability conversations with the right attitude. We're going to talk about mindset at some point in the podcast. We think it's a fight sometimes. We think it's hard. We put a lot of energy. So we start from our values and thinking that we're right and the other person is wrong. We really look at others as our enemies, as opposed to our co-creators of solutions. And we also need to take into consideration the fact that there might be other reasons underneath whatever they say, as an excuse not to adopt sustainability. They might be scared in some ways. They might be affected by different biases. And we looked at how we could reverse this, so try and convince others by making it more personal and more immediately available to them. We're going to dig a little deeper in all of this in future episodes, but at the moment I just wanted to set up the overview of what this podcast is going to talk about. And this is the scenario we're dealing with. Yes, the situation is dire, but things have changed and governments have put down commitments on sustainability. Companies have done the same. It's just at the moment, change is not as fast as we would like it because of all the things that we discussed today. So what I would like you to do is to think about what I shared with you today, and I will try and give you a question to reflect upon the themes of the podcast, because I wanted this to be something very practical. You will see the book once it comes out is very practical as well. Lots of very practical exercises, and that's the coach in me wanted to make it incredibly applicable and immediately applicable to your life. So the question for you this time is, what is the one takeaway from this episode that you have, and the one simple action that you can take to become a good communicator, or perhaps a better communicator if you're already a good communicator? Let me know what you think about this episode, and if you want me to dig a little deeper into some of the themes that I cover very, very quickly today, I will definitely look at that and consider it and give you what you like and what you want and what you need, especially. In future episodes, I'm going to have also some guests. Some of them will be my friends, people that I worked with in the past, or clients who I believe cracked that, really hard nut of communication and communicating sustainability. And they're going to share their experiences of doing that in different ways, so that you can also get inspired and change the way you communicate, so that you get more impact. and the results. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.